Today we are making zucchini frites, or zucchini fries, fried zucchini, whatever you'd like to call them or whatever your country calls them, but they are just simply thinly sliced fried zucchini. I'm going to use my Dutch oven here to kind of shallow fry them. We're going to use sunflower seed oil though. You could use any type of oil you want, but for something so clean like this that's just a vegetable lightly fried, I find if you use any other type of oil, you get too much of that oil flavor. So this is sunflower seed oil is very, very neutral and quite beautiful for frying a nice zucchini like this. We're going to just tip and tail this like usual. I know I love to say tip and tail when I'm talking about zucchinis, and then we're just going to cut these into strips. I was kind of mentally thinking my way through this, which took me a little while. We're going to cut them long ways in half and then just try to cut them into almost like baton slices, not a really thin like matchstick baton, but fairly thin. And then I'm going to wind up cutting these in half because they were just a little bit too long, but make them the way you want to eat them. Some longer pieces are great for fries. Make sure they're not too thick. I cut these in half because you don't want like planks. You want kind of French fry sized pieces, which is great. Zucchini inherently is going to get floppy as they cool down or as they cook, so just know that if you make them really long, they're going to just kind of be floppy, even when they're fried. It's kind of a catch-22 with these. The longer you cook them, the crispier the outsides are going to get, but the insides are going to get mushier and floppier. So just know that these aren't going to be like the most amazingly crispy insides, but that's just what these are, and they're still delicious. Here you can see I cut them into almost about 2-inch pieces. Try to make sure they're all somewhat uniform. Obviously, since the zucchini is round, your edge pieces are going to be a little thinner, and that's totally fine. We're going to do a standard breading station, just egg and panko breadcrumbs, but we're also going to add a little bit of cheese into that breadcrumb just to give it a little bit of extra flavor, which I do personally like. The salt in this dish is mostly from the cheese we're going to add to the breadcrumbs, and then we do salt them at the end. So I do add a little bit of pepper here into the mix just to get a little bit of that taste, but the salt I do at the end is really from the cheese. I find that putting cheese on them at the end plus extra salt makes them overly salty. So if you want to add extra salt at the end when you take them out of the oil, totally fine, but I think just giving them a nice coat of parm when they come out is all you need for that saltiness factor. Now let's get like Babish and use our mini whisk and just whisk these eggs real nice, real fluffy. Make sure they're pretty homogeneous. That will help in the breading process. Check our oil temp. We want around 350 Fahrenheit. We're not there yet, so we're just going to wait a little bit longer. But now it's time to start the actual breading of these. Some people like to do a little thinner of a breading, or some people even go heavier and do like a beer batter on these, but overall, the egg plus the breadcrumbs here will give you a really nice result. Even if there's bald spots, they'll still get browned from the egg. So don't necessarily worry about that, but just throw them into the breadcrumb, mix them around. The cheese is going to stick first and kind of clump, so you do need to kind of work your way through that cheese. Pull off a little bit of it if it gets too chunky, no matter how much you mix it in there. See, that first one is a little chunky cheese-wise, so I'm just going to keep kind of going with those. When you're done, throw them onto your wire rack just so the extra pieces could come off. But that right there is a perfect looking zucchini slice. That's what you're looking for. Evenly breaded, not big clumps, and then you're good to go. Once you get the first batch ready, I like to fry them off. We could see here we're a little bit over 350, so I'm going to turn my heat down to just try to monitor it. Once you get them in, the oil temperature is going to drop as usual, but just throw them in there. And what you're looking for right when you get them in is you want them to float and bubble. If they drop to the bottom and sink, it's not hot enough. But that is exactly what you want to see there. These are going to take basically between 2 and 3 minutes at most. Once they're golden brown, you're good to go. The insides are going to be soft. You just need that outside part to get nice and brown and crispy. Make sure you move them around. They're not really going to stick to each other, but if they do, try to just get them away from each other. There will be little bits of the breadcrumbs that are also frying. You don't want it to find those areas. So just keep them moving, but that's what you're looking for right there. They're really beautiful, really browned. Make sure you don't burn them, but the catch-22, as I mentioned here, is the longer you cook them, the more brown they're going to get, but the insides are going to get softer and softer as they cook. So you want to find that sweet spot. It may take you 1 or 2 batches to really figure it out. Now we're just going to repeat the process. When you take them out, throw them onto some paper towel and hit them with some parm right away while they're still hot, and they'll take it in. As you can see, the second batch isn't cooking nearly as hard because that oil temperature dropped from the first batch. That's the cheese we're throwing onto them. So just make sure you're monitoring your temperature. But then once you get them all out, they've been on paper towel for a little while. They've cooled down. The oil is gone. This is exactly when you plate them up. Throw them any sauce you want on the side. I'm going to put just a little bit of ranch on the side. We're going to hit them with a little bit of extra parm here just to make them extra delicious. But this is such a simple side. A lot of Italian restaurants have these here in the United States, especially in the Northeast where I live. But that's just absolutely beautiful. The most important part, though, is how do they taste? So we're just going to grab one, Dip it in. As you can see, it still holds its shape pretty well. It's not too floppy, but they will as they cool get floppier. But these are absolutely delicious. Fun way to eat something healthy. A little bit of fried, a little bit of ranch. Give these a try at home. I think you will absolutely love them.